All right. Uh, so, Alex, you're asking a question about um, basically the definition of formal practice, right? And it's actually easy enough to describe that, in fact, it's too easy, and we keep thinking there's more to it. But in fact, in a way, there is more to it. But that means then that what we say you do, we don't do it. And so we have to keep repeating it over and over again about this is what we have to do. Okay. So here's part of the question is that the first thing that we're going to do is to remove hindrances. That's the number one thing. If we can't remove the hindrances, we're not going to make much progress at all. We're going to, in fact, be in dukkha for a long time. We have to remove the hindrances. So, the very basic skills that we need to have then is to recognize this hindrance as a hindrance. So, let's define what the word hindrance means first. And the what a hindrance is anything that is going to prevent you from feeling the way that you want to feel. Anything that's going to prevent you from feeling the way that you want to feel. Okay? So, in a way, then, part of the removal of the hindrances is to figure out how we want to feel rather than examining how we do feel. Because examining how we do feel has dukkha in it, and now we're going to be kind of overshooting and going for how do I want to feel.
Okay.
Okay? Now, we actually have a fairly long list of things of the way that people want to feel and have it defined. And when we define those things, people will say, yeah, that's good enough, or that description that you're given is close enough to how I actually want to feel. Okay. And that we can, is actually then when we describe how we want to feel, it winds up being taught or told in concepts anyway.
Right.
Okay, so a concept then that the way that we would want to feel would be an expression of on top of the world.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, to
See
feel
that.
like you're on top of the world, right? Not that you own the world,
Right.
but that you're on top of the world. There was actually a song out of the 1950s about that. I'm living on top of the world. Okay. So, this whole idea, there's another quality to it. And that quality that I use is everyone is an emperor of their own pile of dirt. Everyone is an emperor of their own pile of dirt. The problem is that most people feel suffocated under their pile of dirt. They're like Atlas carrying their own pile of dirt. And the whole point then is with the idea of Ayn Rand with Atlas shrugs is that we are either under our pile of dirt, we're trying to crawl out of our pile of dirt, which is what Atlas is doing. He's trying to shrug it. Or are you going to be just sitting on top of the world, sitting on top of your pile of dirt? This is all a matter of attitude. Okay. And that attitude that Atlas has of shrugging it, that's like he's wanting to crawl out.
Yes.
Okay, he hasn't actually set it down. He's still in the process of letting go and setting it down and being on top of the world. Okay,
Right.
so now let's look at it as the individual levels. But we've got this kind of idea on top of the world. In fact, I'll add a few things to it. We can also talk about being on top of the world is also being supramundane
Lokutara. Is
because
this the Bali?
Lokatara, exactly, on top of the world.
Yes.
That's what that means is the knower of the world. Lokatara, being on top of the world. Now, later literature really goes strange with that when they say that the Buddha knows the name of every fish. That's not what we're talking about here.
Right.
Okay. That's way, way off into too much concepts. What
Yes.
we're talking about is the knower of the world means I know my world, the world of our senses. That when we
Yes.
talk about the names of fishes and things like that, that's all concept, because all of those fish out there are all concepts.
Yes.
You don't have a fish in your hand. And if you do, you can name him and then let him go. Hey, George, bye bye.
Level,
All
Mr.
right.
Limpet.
Okay, so we're not talking about that kind of on top of the world. We're talking about the feeling of being released on top of it
Right.
all. It's a sense of being a winner, lokatara, being on top of it. So, how do we get to that state? Is there's little steps along the way. And so the little steps that we're talking about is, can you feel safe? Can you feel secure? Because you can't be on top of the world if you're not safe and secure. That means that you're still carrying the Atlas's world. All
Right.
right. So we have to feel comfortable also. If that world is heavy, then it is not the way we want to feel. We don't want to feel like our world is heavy. We want to be on top of the world and not under it. So we need to feel comfortable, safe, secure, and comfortable. You've heard me talk about this before. And then we get from that, we get to the level of satisfied, that I am satisfied with my world, which means now I'm on top of it. I've got a handle on the situation. I know what's going on. This is the basic feeling of being out of dukkha, because dukkha is that burden, the world we're carrying, all of our crap, which means that we're the emperor, yeah, but we're buried under all of the weight of all of our world, right? So this is all speaking in concepts, but if we talk to ourselves in the sense of, yeah, I can feel safe and secure. This is part of the reason why it's actually important that the Buddha talks about getting into seclusion, because when we're around other people, we don't feel safe. I know for sure the way that students feel when they're in their meditation classes or in those retreats. Am I doing it right? Am I sitting up properly?
Right.
Who's looking at me? I wish that woman would stop coughing. I wish
Yes.
that girl would take off some of her clothing. I wish that girl would put more clothing back on, you know? And so
Right.
here's all of this stuff that we have, and the Buddha doesn't talk about it in the sense of going to a retreat where you're not really in seclusion, to actually go to the woods. That in fact, I
Right.
highly recommend to the Westerners that if you're going to spend some money on a retreat, go get some camping gear. For
Yeah.
$200 or $300, you can get tents and sleeping bags and all kinds of stuff, and then you've got everything you need to go off in the woods so that you can feel safe and secure and comfortable.
Perfect. This makes
Okay.
sense.
That's the way that we're looking at it, is to go away. Now, we can also not just to the woods, but to an empty hut, an empty room, or just in a safe parking lot. I mean, there are some places that you can park your car and sit and feel comfortable and safe, and in other places, no.
Right.
Okay. An example of that is a McDonald's parking lot. You wouldn't feel safe and secure, but perhaps a Walmart would be okay.
Yes.
Some church parking lots would be a good place to park the car, and other churches would not be a good place to park the
Oh,
car. We need some wisdom with that, okay? But we got to find a place that's actually physically, in reality, safe.
right.
We have to create that reality. Why? Because how could we feel safe if we haven't created a reality of safe? So when we
Right.
know that we're safe and secure, then we can talk ourselves into actually feeling safe and secure. Because the reality is that we are safe and secure.
Right.
This is an important point now. So this is the preliminaries. But now let's get back to the hindrances. Once we're sitting down, we have to make sure that none of the thoughts that we're having are going to be thoughts of, am I safe or not? And change those into, certainly, of course I'm safe. I planned this well, and this is safe and secure. Well, I'm glad that I'm secure. Okay? That in fact, that's the whole point of these five hindrances is that we don't feel safe and secure when we're in the hindrances. Now,
Right.
one of the things that you mentioned, and in fact, this whole preliminary thing that I've been talking about for the past 15 minutes or so, is the hindrance of doubt does not make us feel safe and secure. Asking questions about how I'm supposed to practice is not practicing.
Yes.
It's making us
And
feel insecure because I don't know what I'm doing. Go ahead.
so we can have full faith in the teachings of the Buddha, yet still have doubt as a hindrance arise.
Exactly.
Ah, okay.
Uh, because that full faith is not really full yet. We have to
Right.
practice it to make it full.
Understood.
And so we want to know, and that's part of our society. We want to get it right the first time. We want to make sure that we're
Yes.
getting it right. Guess what?
Right.
That doesn't happen.
Got it. That's not how we learn.
That's not how we learned. But what we can do then is say, okay, well, I am going to be on guard for making myself feel insecure by asking questions about how to practice because I already know how to practice. It's a very simple thing to do, is to stop doubting what I'm doing and just enjoy it instead.
Okay.
And we have to keep doing that
Oh,
over and over
yeah.
again because all of those doubts, all of those worries, all of that restlessness, and all of that agitation will keep coming back because we're in the habit of being in that state.
Right.
That in fact, part of the waking up process that happens within Anapanasati is more dukkha, not less. Why?
Ah,
Because if you don't know that you're in dukkha, then you're kind of not in dukkha. It's underneath. It's sort of like um, being uncomfortable. Here's a here's an excellent example. You've been
yeah.
eating in bed and you've got bread. You've got not breadcrumbs, but cracker crumbs
Right,
in the
right, right.
bed with
So,
you. Okay, and here you are laying in bed, getting comfortable, and you can begin to feel those cracker crumbs after a while. They're
yeah.
no longer comfortable because they're giving us data. Okay. And so what we have to do then is to move up just a little bit and brush those cracker crumbs out of the bed. A very worst case scenario would be sitting in a chair and there's a shoe in the chair and you're sitting on that shoe. Okay, well, that's not going to take you very long to figure out that shoe is there,
Uh,
but it could be something else. Okay, like maybe a small screwdriver or a piece of wood or whatever. We sit down, we don't quite notice it, but after a while, we recognize that that's there. And we need to do something about it. That's
yeah.
also the hindrances, is that we will start in hindrance and not recognize them as hindrance, but then we do recognize it as hindrance. And so now we wind up having to sweep the bed out really, really often
Okay. I
because
think I'm
we
tracking
keep,
what you're saying.
okay, because you keep seeing this stuff come up in a way that you didn't see it before. But now that we're getting
Right.
peaceful and quiet and comfortable, now we're beginning to look, well, where is the discomfort now? And it's layer after layer after layer after layer of stuff that keeps coming up. That's And so every time that it does, we got to eventually see it and then throw it out. The doubts, one
Right.
at a time, throw them out. I'm okay. I don't have to know that answer, is the way to handle the doubt. I don't need that answer. I'm already got everything I need to be happy and comfortable. I don't have to have an exact practice.
Okay.
Wanting to do it right is a hindrance. Enjoying that it's good enough is correct practice.
Okay, I can see that.
Mm-hmm. And so
Yeah,
that's
I
what
see
we
what you're
do.
saying as we
Just keep coming
remember
back.
to
Am I
look and see
comfortable?
more.
Am I safe? Am I secure? Am I satisfied?